As the new year approaches, my roommate Alara unexpectedly got pregnant. This is her 7th pregnancy. She said this might be her only child and asked for my help. I collected some evidence and secretly submitted a report to Thaddeus's unit. The man was extremely angry and suddenly barged in while I was taking care of Alara, beating me until my spleen ruptured. When I woke up, Alara accused me, saying I had secretly seduced Thaddeus and slandered him when I failed. I fainted in anger, and the video spread online. I became the target of everyone's hatred. My parents spent all their savings to help me and eventually died in a car accident. I was also attacked by internet users, had acid thrown on me, and later jumped off a bridge. When I woke up again, Alara was holding my hand and complaining incessantly. "Ophelia, do you think he really loves me?" I smiled coldly, but maintained a gentle demeanor. "Of course, if it weren't love, why would he let you be the only one pregnant?" "Ophelia, I'm pregnant." Hearing this familiar news, I was somewhat stunned. The helplessness and pain from those moments before death still flashed through my mind, hard to forget for a long time. I looked up and saw my roommate Alara holding my hand, her face showing a shy expression. "Ophelia, do you really think he loves me?" I recalled and blurted out, "Of course, if it weren't true love, why would he only let you get pregnant?" Upon hearing this, Alara's pride became even more evident, and her already wrinkled face smiled with more creases. "Ophelia, don't be too envious. You will meet such a good man eventually." I felt a wave of discomfort in my heart, but I still went along with her on the surface. It wasn't until Alara left for her date that my expression turned cold. In my past life, I really went to great lengths for Alara. When I learned she was pregnant again, I not only took care of her but also helped alleviate her study pressure and gave her suggestions. When I heard that Thaddeus didn't want the child and was forcing her to have an abortion, I was furious and took it upon myself to stand up for Alara. Unfortunately, my good intentions did not earn her gratitude. Alara is the typical pampered wife. No one is allowed to speak ill of Thaddeus. As long as Thaddeus is a little nice to her, she will happily run over. Thaddeus works in a public office, is in a second marriage, and is quite a bit older than Alara. In my past life, I was very angry to learn that Alara had an abortion 6 times. I felt sorry for her youth and thought she might have been deceived by bad people, so I submitted a report to Thaddeus's workplace. Sure enough, the workplace took the issue seriously and suspended Thaddeus that very day. That day, Alara was initially happy with me, but after Thaddeus made a phone call, her attitude changed dramatically. In the evening, Alara said she felt unwell and hoped I could take care of her, so I softened and stayed. I didn't expect Thaddeus to show up with a knife in the middle of the night. I was forced onto the balcony, originally intending to jump to the opposite balcony, but Alara begged me to help her. As a result, I was pulled into the room and then beaten badly. Thaddeus charged at me like a wild beast, mercilessly punching my stomach, and my head was also attacked. In a daze, I vaguely saw Thaddeus raise a knife at me. When I was barely conscious, I heard Alara calling out beside me, trying to stop him. Alara said, "Don't use a knife. Just use your fists. Anyway, even if she dies, it won't be counted against you." I looked at her, and Alara immediately covered her mouth, looking disgusted. "Don't look at me like that. I just hope the baby's father won't be labeled a murderer." Getting hit hard enough to rupture a spleen is really dangerous. If taken to the hospital later, it could lead to serious issues, even requiring a permanent catheter. If such things get out, it causes a huge stir, and it quickly escalates online. Seeing the situation turning against her, Alara decisively retaliated, shifting all the blame onto me. As a result, I, who was unconscious, was mindlessly accused of seduction. Public opinion changed dramatically. Alara tearfully spoke out online, claiming that I seduced Thaddeus, stating that Thaddeus repeatedly rejected me while I showed no remorse. She said Thaddeus had to take action against me to protect his innocence. By the time I finally escaped danger, I had already been condemned by everyone. To help me, my parents sought assistance everywhere, but one day they had a car accident and both passed away. But the online users still haven't let me off the hook. They claimed that having a daughter like me was deserved, and my heart was like ashes. On the rooftop, to prove my innocence, I chose to jump. Just before I died, I saw Alara's live stream selling products. Thaddeus attracts fans with his unwavering loyalty, while Alara relies on her image as a loving wife to garner sympathy everywhere. These two are working together online to scam money, and it seems to be getting easier for them. Perhaps I was too foolish in my past life, and fate is giving me a second chance. Alara returned dejectedly, silently wiping her tears in her seat. In the past, seeing her like this would make my heart soften, and I would want to stand up for her. Now I pretended not to see and mindlessly scrolled through videos. Seeing that I had no reaction, Alara ultimately couldn't help but sit down next to me. I was still scrolling through videos, acting disinterested. Alara's gaze was fixed on me, and seeing that I was unmoved, she became a little anxious. Ophelia, I'm pregnant. I twitched my lips, silently thinking that this had nothing to do with me. The child isn't mine. On the surface, however, I acted like I was very willing to listen. I know. I don't even want to say another word. Who knows if Alara has other plans in her mind? If the words are not well chosen, it could lead to trouble. Seeing that I didn't respond, Alara took the initiative to speak again. That man wanted me to have an abortion, but Ophelia, the doctor said this might be my last child, and I want to keep him. I don't want to terminate the pregnancy. As expected, it's the same saying as in my previous life. Alara, this unscrupulous woman, wants to use me, hoping I'll help her while she sits back and enjoys the benefits. I'm not falling for that. Alara looked at me with hope. I frowned and asked, "Huh? So what should we do?" "Alara, whatever decision you make, I will support you. Isn't this just getting the upper hand first?" I would do the same. Alara was stunned. She originally wanted to hold my hand but stopped midair. I turned away to avoid her. At this moment, another roommate came back and excitedly shared snacks with us when she saw we were all here. My roommate is named Serafina, and just like her name, she has a gentle personality and is a very kind-hearted girl. I noticed Alara's eyes shift, and immediately felt that something was off. Sure enough, Alara changed her tone. "Serafina, I really can't take it anymore." I couldn't help but twitch at the corner of my eye when I saw Serafina looking so innocent, just like I used to. Alara rushed over and grabbed Serafina's hand, crying so hard that she couldn't speak at all. "Serafina, I'm pregnant, and that bad man wants me to have an abortion, but I've already had 6, and this might be my last and only child. I can't bear to give up on this baby." Serafina was stunned, standing there in shock. After a while, she finally said, "Oh." I almost couldn't help but laugh. Alara's face was getting worse and worse. Seeing Serafina walk straight to her bed, Alara still unwillingly followed her. "Serafina, don't you think he's really bad? Don't you think I'm very pitiful?" Alara spoke excitedly, seemingly trying to make Serafina believe her words, and tears streamed down her face. Serafina stiffened, looking at Alara's pitiful state, and I worried she might soften. But the young girl's resolve was very firm. "You're pitiful, but what does that have to do with me?" Serafina said firmly. "Your pity is self-inflicted, and even the unborn child in your belly is your own doing. It has nothing to do with others." I really wanted to applaud her, and my worries faded away. Alara lay back down on the bed. In the middle of the night, suddenly I heard a cry. Serafina and I got up at the same time and exchanged a glance. Sure enough, something had happened to Alara again. I didn't want to deal with her, but there was an exam tomorrow. If I didn't sleep well tonight, how would I have the energy for tomorrow? I lifted the curtain and saw her face covered in tears. Serafina and I exchanged glances once more. Alara grabbed my hand and, without hesitation, threw herself into my arms, crying, "That bastard Thaddeus is such a jerk. He said if I don't get rid of the baby, he'll break up with me." Alara cried loudly, her voice sounding like a blaring horn. I coldly asked, "So what do you plan to do?" Alara was taken aback, seemingly reflecting on the question. Then she slowly said, "I don't want to let him off so easily. I treated him so well, yet he treated me like this. What does he think of me?" Honestly, if I hadn't gone through those experiences, I might have really been fooled by her. I looked at Serafina, and she silently shook her head. Suddenly, I remembered in my past life, Serafina had warned me not to be too good to Alara. At that time, I thought she just looked down on Alara for being an unwed mother, so I didn't take it to heart. Even under Alara's encouragement, I cut off contact with Serafina, and as a result, I had no friends to confide in after leaving the hospital. Looking back now, Serafina was indeed a wise person. Alara held my hand, putting on a wronged expression. "Ophelia, can you help me out a bit? You are my only friend. If you don't help me, I really don't know what to do." "Only friend? It seems I'm more like her shield." Alara stared at me, as if she couldn't live without my agreement. I pretended to comfort her and gently patted her back. Go rest first. Do you want to keep this child? It's not good for the child to stay up this late. We'll talk about the rest tomorrow. Don't worry. I was dealing with Alara. She thought I agreed to help and immediately smiled happily, hugging my waist affectionately, saying, "Great, Ophelia. I knew you would help me. You'll be the child's godmother, and we will be good sisters for life." After saying that, she glanced at Serafina. Serafina, who had rolled her eyes once, yawned and went back. But she secretly sent me a message. Alara is not a good person. Don't fully trust her words, and leave some room for maneuver. It seems she was worried I wouldn't believe her, so she added another message. That boyfriend is my dad's colleague and has a bad reputation. If Alara can be with him, it shows they have some similarities. It's best not to get too close to her to avoid getting hurt. I felt a warmth in my heart and replied after seeing the message. I know. Don't worry. I won't let her succeed. Also, I wish you success in your exam. It seems that Serafina missed an exam in her past life. It seems her family doesn't allow her to go abroad, and tomorrow's exam is very important for her. If she misses this exam, she might have to follow her family's arrangements and find a job in the county. I thought about it and couldn't help but remind her to set the alarm and not oversleep. After sending the message, I waited a long time without receiving a reply. My feelings of unease grew stronger. Logically, for such an important exam, Serafina should have been prepared long ago. The alarm should have been set already, and everything should have been well prepared. But the memories of my past life made me unable to relax. I didn't dare to close my eyes all night. I managed to muddle through until the next day. When I looked at the time, it was already 7 o'clock. The exam is at 8. I used to sleep until 7:30. Thinking Serafina had already left and not giving it much thought. It wasn't until later that I heard she had missed the exam. With doubts in my mind, I quietly got out of bed and pulled back her curtain. Seeing that she was still asleep, I reached out and shook her gently. She still didn't wake up. I gave Serafina's face a firm pat. Finally, the girl woke up groggily. Though I had doubts, I tried to suppress them. The most important thing now was the exam. I softly shushed Serafina and then took out my phone to show her the time. Serafina's eyes widened as she immediately understood, and she gently got out of bed to start packing. The whole process was completely silent. When it was time, I also got out of bed. I kept an eye on Alara. Sure enough, from the moment she got up, her gaze unconsciously drifted toward Serafina. Perhaps Serafina's situation was related to her. I remembered last night when Alara secretly filled the kettle and stood by it for a long time. Is it possible that Alara put something in the water? Otherwise, it's hard to understand how someone as concerned about this important exam as Serafina could oversleep. I pretended to hang clothes on the balcony, but actually, I was hiding there to secretly observe Alara. I kept my eyes peeled and took out my phone to start recording. Sure enough, Alara suddenly jumped out. She looked around, then emptied the hot water from Serafina's kettle and replaced it with new water. While pouring the water, she couldn't help but laugh. Want to be noble? Want to go abroad? Want to be happy? I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to prevent you from taking the exam and from having a good life. Let's see how you can still laugh. Hearing Alara's curse, I felt a chill down my back. I'm grateful my phone has powerful features and recorded her words. Otherwise, with only a video recording, Alara would definitely shirk responsibility and might even frame Serafina. Thinking about what I had gone through in the past, I couldn't help but grit my teeth. It's time to let them fight it out. Didn't Alara want me to help her find a way? Then I'll come up with some ideas. Doesn't Thaddeus want Alara to get rid of the baby? I will help too. I'm a good person. Of course I want to take care of both sides. After the exam, Alara followed me back to the dorm. Seeing that I didn't mention what happened last night at all, Alara started to give me hints. I smiled and reassured her. Alara, don't worry. I've already solved it for you. This way, that jerk will pay the price. Alara's eyes lit up, and she immediately pretended to be very touched. Ophelia, I knew you would help me. Alara pouted and said, unlike that Serafina, who seems warm but is actually cold-hearted. People like that won't have a good ending. She smiled somewhat maliciously. I also started to want to keep my distance from her. But then I thought, only by punishing her thoroughly can I feel at ease. Otherwise, Alara would find a way to harm others too. I have to seek justice for my past self. In the evening, Serafina came back. After she saw me, she smiled, then packed her bags and left. Alara smiled proudly. Some people always say they want to do well in exams and study abroad, but in the end, they only leave a trail of broken dreams. People shouldn't speak too confidently until the last moment. Who knows how things will turn out? Faced with Alara's mockery, Serafina said nothing. As she was leaving, she told me, "Ophelia, Alara is not a good person. You should be careful." I knew she was backing me up, and I felt grateful for such kindness. What are you talking about? Alara is so cute and so pitiful. What's wrong with me caring about her a bit more? Seeing Alara's triumphant look, I knew her goal had been achieved. After watching the woman leave, I secretly sent her the recorded video. Serafina stormed out, while Alara just laughed beside her. She's only at that level. She will definitely cry secretly when she goes home tonight. I pretended not to understand and asked back, "What?" Alara immediately changed the topic, brushing it off. In the evening, Alara curiously asked me, "Ophelia, how do you plan to help me get revenge?" I smiled slightly. Of course, I will make sure he gets the punishment he deserves in the fastest and most effective way. I looked at Alara and quietly took out my phone to turn on the recording function. "Alara, Thaddeus is your boyfriend after all. Is it really appropriate for me to do this?" Alara was taken aback for a moment, then sneered. "What does he count for? He made me have 6 abortions, and now he doesn't even want this one child. I will never forgive him. Fortunately, you are by my side, willing to help me. People like him deserve to be punished." Hearing this, I smiled contentedly inside. The next day, Alara received a call from Thaddeus. I saw it. As Alara was about to answer, I interrupted. "Men are all like this. You can't be too good to them. You need to ignore them for a while so they can realize your worth." After hearing this, a glimmer of light flashed in Alara's eyes, and she immediately agreed with me. "Ophelia, you are right. I have been too good to him, and that's why he doesn't cherish me. I need to make him feel what it's like to lose me so that he will learn to cherish me." So, Thaddeus kept dialing, but none of the calls went through. Alara hung up on all of them. With my help, Alara even blacklisted Thaddeus's number and removed all other contact methods like WeChat and Alipay. Happy Alara seemed to have already imagined Thaddeus coming back to beg her, smiling and hugging the blanket, looking quite pleased with herself. "Ophelia, actually Thaddeus has been quite nice to me." I just casually responded with Alara, however, seemed to really enjoy this topic. "He's wealthy, much older than me, experienced, and most importantly, he treats me quite well." Hearing Alara start talking about her princess style again, I couldn't help but twitch my lips. "If he's that good, then I'll retract my revenge against him. I wouldn't want to affect your relationship." Alara immediately refused loudly. Seeing me look at her, she nonchalantly said, "No way. Absolutely not. We can't just let him off the hook so easily. I want him to come begging me, and then I'll consider whether to forgive him." In a place where Alara couldn't see, a smile involuntarily crept onto my lips. "He will come to ask for your forgiveness tomorrow." Early the next morning, Mr. Hawthorne hurriedly arrived at the dormitory. Alara looked very confused, but Mr. Hawthorne held her hand tightly and gently stroked her head, reassuring her, "Don't worry, dear. The teacher will help you solve this. That bad guy will definitely pay for it." Alara still felt bewildered, not understanding why Mr. Hawthorne was there, her face showing signs of being at a loss. I gave her a slight nod, and Alara looked around, finally realizing that I meant well, and accepted Mr. Hawthorne's comfort. In the dormitory, Mr. Hawthorne and Alara were sitting face to face. I noticed a red dot flashing on Mr. Hawthorne's phone and couldn't help but feel that he was quite experienced. At that moment, a message from Serafina came in. Alara's boyfriend was arrested by the police yesterday for getting her pregnant under false pretenses, which seemed to be related to Alara. I watched the message on my phone indicating that someone was typing. Serafina couldn't help but say, "That Thaddeus seems a bit unstable. He even mentioned killing someone when he was taken away." I understood in my heart and felt warm from Serafina Tina's concern, so I sent back a meme. Looking at Alara again, she seems surprised. Seeing me take the initiative, she pushed this troublesome matter onto me. She used being pregnant and tired as an excuse to hide in bed. I know Alara is worried that saying too much will let Thaddeus know, which could implicate her. So she pushed everything onto me, and if anything happens, it will naturally be my fault. She can then reconcile with Thaddeus and continue her good life. She really has it all figured out. Mr. Hawthorne took me to the office, where there were 2 police officers. The teacher couldn't help but ask how Alara and Thaddeus have been lately. This soon-to-retire teacher has always been very kind to us and feels sympathetic and apologetic about Alara's out-of-wedlock pregnancy and her 6 miscarriages, believing it has to do with her not guiding her properly. Everyone thinks of Alara as a young girl, and in situations like this, it must be the man's fault. Who would have thought that they are actually on the same level, one willing to give and the other willing to receive? In the office, I pulled out Alara's voice recordings. The police recorded a backup and then asked, "So this man lured the woman and pressured her to have an abortion, right?" I pretended to be confused and stammered, "I suppose so, but I'm not really familiar with their situation. This is Alara's private matter, and I don't usually pry into it." The teacher looked disappointed, and I pretended to remember something, but Alara said that this man treated her well, was willing to spend money, and apart from not wanting to marry her, everything else was fine. The teacher gently stroked his head, feeling helpless. The police were very angry, thinking that Thaddeus was truly irresponsible. As for Alara's voice, that has nothing to do with me now. After all the evidence was provided by Alara. I knew nothing about it and was not involved in anything. Reporting the incident was Mr. Hawthorne's responsibility, and it was Alara who hung up the phone herself. It has nothing to do with me. After clarifying the situation, the teacher asked, "What are Alara's plans now?" I was stunned for a moment, then answered, "She wants to have the baby. She's been saying in my ear that the doctor said this might be her only child in her lifetime." The teacher let out a deep sigh, truly a poor child. I couldn't help but give the teacher a dismissive look. "Teacher, Alara said she wants the jerk to pay for his actions, and I think the quickest and most effective way is to send a complaint letter to the jerk's workplace. But Alara seems particularly reluctant to do that, feeling it would ruin his future." I paused at this point. The teacher also began to frown in thought. After a while, he smiled at me, appearing very friendly. "Alara is pregnant, and I will apply to the school to arrange a single room for her. You are about to graduate and have your own things to deal with. You really shouldn't interfere in their matters." Suddenly, I understood that the teacher saw what I was trying to express. Staying out of others' business and protecting yourself is the wisest choice. After all, everyone is normal, but Alara is different. Her thoughts are not like ours, and Thaddeus is not a normal person either. After returning to the dorm, I quickly moved my luggage out. Alara looked at me in surprise, trying to stop me. "Ophelia, didn't you promise to help me? How can you move away?" I held back and forced a smile. "I've done my best to help you. What happens next is up to you." Alara still doesn't know that Thaddeus has been captured. Before long, the police should be arriving too. I don't want to beat around the bush with her. I'll just say it clearly. "Alara, do you really think I don't understand anything?" Alara still wants to play dumb, trying to use a pitiful look to get away with it. I let out a cold laugh. "Weren't you the one who wanted Thaddeus to pay the price? Let me tell you, he was captured yesterday, and his unit has already issued a notice to dismiss him. Are you satisfied now?" I saw Alara's face getting worse, turning pale in an instant. "How is that possible? It can't be." I smiled and casually said, "This is a big issue, related to morality." Alara got anxious and tightly grabbed my sleeve to stop me from leaving. "Ophelia, please help me. I don't want him to be punished. You should go to his workplace and tell those leaders that it's all fake. You're just joking." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Am I really that dumb? How could I voluntarily send myself to prison? If I really went, wouldn't that be wronging Thaddeus? It would just give him a chance to sue me, and I'd definitely lose. Alara really thinks I'm stupid. Seeing that I insisted on leaving, Alara immediately sat on the ground holding her stomach, saying in pain, "My stomach hurts so much, I can't go on." "Ophelia, Thaddeus is gone. What will happen to the child in my belly? You're the child's godmother. You have to think about the child. Hurry up and rescue Thaddeus." I watched coldly and suddenly chimed in, "That's right. Thaddeus is the father of the child in your belly. If he leaves a bad record, that child will have big trouble in the future. Alara nodded repeatedly, as if she saw a glimmer of hope for victory. Just then, the police arrived. I raised my hand and pointed, pouting angrily. Look, the police are here. You should talk to them nicely and try to get Thaddeus released as soon as possible. Alara was once again stunned and wanted to continue the argument, but the teacher quickly pulled her away. I left in high spirits and immediately told Serafina in detail about what happened today. Now she has successfully passed the exam and received the opportunity for a government-sponsored study abroad. She'll be leaving soon. I'm genuinely happy for her, but she's worried about me. Alara felt a bit worried. She thought Thaddeus was a bad person, and with his mental issues, if he really did something extreme, it would be troublesome. Serafina's words carried a sense of worry. I've already understood Thaddeus's character. He's simply a foolish hothead who now wrongly believes that Alara is intentionally trying to harm him and wants them both to perish. And I'm just a bystander who knows very little about their situation. On the day Serafina went abroad, I went to see her off. Before parting, she seriously handed me a business card. This is my dad's contact information. He's Thaddeus's boss and a public official. If you encounter any trouble or unfair treatment, you can ask him for help. I've already given him a heads up. I felt a warmth in my heart. After seeing off Serafina, I received a call from Alara. There was no sound on the other end. From time to time, there were sounds of things being thrown, along with women's screams and pleas for mercy. After listening for a while, I finally heard Alara's cry for help. Having experienced things from my past life, I felt very calm inside. Who can say whether Alara's side is deliberately trying to lure me in? I decisively chose to record the call. When Alara sent me another distress signal, I held the phone away and shouted at the screen, "Hey, what did you say? I can't hear you. Hey, the signal here is bad." After hanging up, I immediately took the recording to the police station. Facing the familiar officers, I said directly, "I'd like to report a case. Someone is deliberately attacking innocent women." When the police listened to the recording and heard Alara's voice, their faces showed surprise. After handling my report, the police kindly reminded me of something. If you receive a similar emergency call next time, it's best to go to the police station. That's the safest and most appropriate option. Never go alone. I understood his words and nodded seriously. I thought Alara could stay calm for a few days, but unexpectedly, it was soon time for final exams. Alara missed several exams, but she showed up for the last one. Coincidentally, she sat right behind me. I felt a twinge in my right eyelid, sensing something was off. The exam proceeded as usual. I wrote quickly while keeping an eye on Alara. To my surprise, she was unusually quiet throughout the entire exam, without any outbursts. As I walked out of the exam room, Alara followed me at a distance that was neither too close nor too far. Seeing me look at her, Alara seemed encouraged and stepped forward to grab my hand. "Ophelia, we haven't had a meal together in a long time. Let's catch up today." I felt a chill in my heart, a bit uneasy. Why is everything so strange? I raised my hand to refuse, but Alara stubbornly held on, looking determined to get my agreement. Feeling troubled, I suddenly sensed a burning gaze. I turned to look at the trash can and noticed a corner of black clothing peeking out. It seemed like someone was hiding there. I somewhat understood why Alara was doing this. My phone started recording again. I nodded in resignation and agreed. "All right, I'll send a message to my friend. We were supposed to have lunch together today." I complained a bit, showing my annoyance. Under Alara's watchful gaze, I sent a message to the last police officer. "Alara asked me to eat at Maple Street. Let's plan for next time." I hope this police officer can understand what I mean. Seeing that I was calm, Alara happily linked her arm with mine. I was led into the private room by her. Just as I felt a wave of panic, I received a reply from the police officer. "Good." This simple word made me feel invigorated. The lights in the private room seemed to dim, and Alara's smile faded. Seeing me sitting there obediently, Alara showed a strange smile. "Ophelia, you must be feeling quite proud." This statement confuses me a bit. Seeing Alara's excited expression, I felt somewhat uneasy. "Alara, what does this mean? Why can't I understand?" Alara seemed to have dropped her disguise, shouting at me excitedly. "What are you pretending for? You're just jealous of me, trying to harm me and ruin my relationship with Thaddeus. aren't you? Hearing Alara's words, I quickly responded, no. Sure enough, a hint of unease showed in her eyes. I understood that Thaddeus might be hiding behind the scenes right now. He could be in the dark room in the private box or outside the box. He's probably waiting to rush in and hit me once I admit it. At this moment, when Alara saw that I couldn't answer what she wanted to hear, the panic on her face became more apparent. I decided to take action first. So I pulled out Alara's recording. In an instant, Alara's voice echoed in the private box. I didn't want to let him off so easily. Someone like him needs to know the consequences. Thaddeus is such a scumbag. He's practically a beast. These words were said by Alara herself. I didn't make them up. Alara's expression changed suddenly, and she wanted to rush over to smash my phone, but I cleverly dodged. I worried that while dodging, I would only make her more disgusted. Alara, actually Thaddeus isn't that bad. After all, he was quite willing to spend money when you were together. And now that you're carrying his child, even though he might not want it, he should give you some compensation for the sake of the baby. What more could you want? Alara, don't do this. Really don't make things so awkward. Alara shouted, stop talking. That's enough. Shut your mouth. Meanwhile, the door to the private room was opened. Thaddeus walked in holding a knife. It was exactly like the scene from my past life, and my heart tightened. But this time, his target wasn't me, it was Alara. While they were fighting, I placed my phone on the table and took a few pictures, then I seized the chance to slip out, accidentally closing the door behind me. There were sounds of crackling from inside, along with continuous cries and pleas from a woman, followed by faint calls for help. The sounds gradually diminished. I stroked my chin, thinking I can't let Alara get into trouble. The police have arrived. First, they kicked open the door. Soon, a beautiful officer took control of Thaddeus. I followed in quickly and hid my phone. I glanced around the scene and felt it was even scarier than the place where I was murdered in my past life. I felt a bit scared, but then I felt relieved. I can't do that. Alara has already fallen to this extent. How could she possibly let Thaddeus go? However, thinking about Alara's personality, it's not entirely impossible. Sure enough, when the police arrested Thaddeus for intentional homicide, a seriously injured Alara dragged herself to the police station and provided a letter of forgiveness. To help Thaddeus reduce his sentence, she also morally pressured the police by claiming she was pregnant, emphasizing that the child cannot grow up without a father. This case attracted widespread attention from society. Netizens are speaking out for Alara, demanding the death penalty for Thaddeus. However, Alara signed a letter of understanding and spoke out online. My husband loves me. Both his hits and scolds come from love. Although it hurts, it doesn't matter. My husband's love is eternal. This left me shocked once again. Netizens were also shocked and expressed their support for Alara's statement. Respect, likes, and follows, wishing the streamer and Thaddeus to be together forever, vowing not to part. Alara must be very happy to see this message. However, in her understanding, she might not see the next statement from netizens, which is to prevent bad individuals from entering society and the dating market. During the court hearing, Alara appeared at the court with a big belly, surrounded by many media outlets. With rising attention, Alara began to showcase her love with Thaddeus online. The content included Thaddeus giving her gifts to celebrate anniversaries, and he mentioned only letting her get pregnant. Hearing this, I was completely shocked. The netizens watching online also expressed that they felt very complicated inside. Soon after, Thaddeus was also pushed into the spotlight. Alara ran over with tears, wanting to put on a long-lost couples act in front of the media. Thaddeus quickly handcuffed Alara around the neck. In an instant, Alara's face turned purple. Thaddeus applied force, and the handcuffs even cut into her neck, causing blood to flow. By the time the police arrived to stop it, it was already too late. Before the ambulance arrived, Alara had already lost consciousness from excessive blood loss. Netizens who witnessed the whole incident felt heartbroken. It was a sorrow for the loss of life. Killing in the courtroom is simply an unforgivable crime. The next day, the court sentenced Thaddeus to death. Hearing this verdict, I finally felt a sense of relief. The shadows of my past life seemed to dissipate in that moment. I booked a flight abroad, preparing to find Serafina. I heard there are many handsome guys in Paris, and that guy was so busy enjoying himself that he forgot about me. I can't fall behind. Dear Serafina, I'm coming.